So here's the first story we got from Newsweek. Trump urges death penalty for drug dealers. Quote, China has no drug problem.
Oh, my.
They said Trump made the remarks in a speech he delivered in Las Vegas, Nevada, Friday during a rally for his endorsed candidates in the state's gubernatorial and Senate races. The speech was marked by two recurring themes for Trump, a demand for law and order, as well as an admiration for heavy-handed governance. He said, quote, if you look at countries all throughout the world, the only ones that don't have a drug problem are those that institute the death penalty for drug dealers. They're the only ones. You understand that? China has no drug problem. During a speech, Trump recalled asking Chinese President Xi Jinping if his country had a drug problem. Quote, I innocently and perhaps naively asked if there was much of a drug problem in China. Why would you ask? He didn't say this, but I'm saying what he was thinking. Why would you have such a dumb question as that? No, we don't have a drug problem. Why would we have a drug problem? There is no problem. Drug dealers get the death penalty. The trial goes very quickly. So instead of coming to into China, they go someplace else. We've had big drug problems over the centuries, but we don't have a drug problem at all. Now they don't deal in China, the former president said. So Matt, you were actually there. I take it.
So he said he gave us similar remarks just today.
Oh, okay. I got the old version of the story. Actually.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
At America First Agenda Conference, put on by America First Policy Institute, which I run, am co-chair of their Center for Law and Justice. And yes, this is not. He said this actually while he was president as well. This is a theme that I've heard from Donald Trump many times. And I think his sentiment is spot on. If you look at the opioid, fentanyl drug overdose crisis in our country, we're losing over 100,000 people a year now in our country to overdoses.
Yeah.
In fact, more people die of it's the number one killer for 18 to 45.
But these are prescribed, aren't they?
Not fentanyl.
Not fentanyl?
No. So the prescription opioids are a much smaller segment now. What's actually happening is people are that you've my understanding, and again I'm not a drug user, not a drug dealer, have never used an illegal drug, and so my understanding in talking to the experts and talking to people is that you build up a tolerance to opioids, and fentanyl's an opioid, it's a synthetic opioid, and so if you don't take it, it's laced in something else you take, or if you take too much of it, that it can just pretty much wipe you out. Now, this is not we also thought about at the Department of Justice, we reinstituted the death penalty because it had been a moratorium since the Bush administration on the death penalty, and one of the things we thought about was using fentanyl as the lethal agent in order to demonstrate kind of the lethality. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure people watching are going to get in an inner comment to tell me if it is or isn't. But
it is. Yeah.
Only you can see that. But to demonstrate just how potent fentanyl can be.
But so what does it do? Like when you overdose on fentanyl, you just kind of pass out? Is that what happens?
Yeah, essentially, it my understanding is it takes your vitals down to zero. I mean, you just kind of it depresses your heart and your lungs, and you stop breathing, and you essentially smother.
Sounds. I mean, in terms of the death penalty, that sounds humane at the very least.
Yeah, and it's pretty much what we're doing with another cocktail of drugs. And we I'll give you an example. I mean, I know you don't want to do a show about the death penalty, and so. I want to keep this. It should be lighter because I'm usually a fun person, but we're talking.
This is so dark.
Yeah, it's really dark, and I'm not a dark person. I'm an optimist. But we in the state of Iowa, my home state, I was the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Iowa. There's a Northern District, which obviously if you have a Southern District, that implies a Northern District. But in the Northern District of Iowa, we had a drug dealer who executed a family of 5. And including the mom, dad, and the kids, and so that he was sentenced rightfully to the death penalty, and then had been sitting in prison for over 20 years because there was this de facto moratorium, even though Congress had said and the president had signed a law saying there is a death penalty in the federal system for certain things. They weren't doing it, and the Biden administration is now not doing it either. But this gentleman from Iowa. Was, put to death under the federal system in the Trump administration, and it was I knew a prosecutor who had done that case and had been around for 20 years waiting to see that. And he actually called me that day and thanked me and thanked the administration for, finally giving that family that was still alive, justice.